In honor of my sister's birthday today, I'm going to talk about one of her favorite characters from one of her favorite murder mystery writers, Agatha Christie. That famous Belgian detective that everyone assumes is French, Hercule Poirot. Recently, he has been brought to the big screen by Kenneth Branagh in a trilogy of movies, Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and A Haunting in Venice. I'm talking about the last movie today. It's supposedly based on the novel Hallowe'en Party. Unlike his other two movies, he changed the name from the adaptation and also the plot and the setting. Hallowe'en Party takes place in Woodley Common, a little town in England, whereas A Haunting in Venice takes place in, Venice. I think Kenneth Branagh changed the setting for atmosphere. He seemed to be more interested in making a creepy detective story rather than adapting Hallowe'en Party. Which is a shame because what he gave us is not really as good as Agatha Christie's story. A Haunting in Venice is your typical locked in one location story.
A medium boasts of having a vision of murder. Now she is dead. One of you felt her rise upon you, killed her, tried to kill me. No one shall leave this place until I know who.
They were locked in overnight because of the storm, and since all of the streets are basically waterways. There is a ticking clock. Poirot had to solve the crime before the police got there in the morning and the real killer got away.
You will all have your chance to speak.
And call back the police. Tell them Hercule Poirot is on the case.
The theme of A Haunting in Venice seemed to be, is the supernatural real or not? But the theme surrounding Hallowe'en Party seemed to be sentencing guidelines in England. In most Poirot stories, the people that he has to interview regarding the crime or murder seem to always believe that it was an outsider who committed the crime. It couldn't be possible that someone they knew was a killer. And not only an outsider, but a foreigner, because good English people couldn't possibly be murderers. Which felt very rude since Poirot was a foreigner. Sometimes they recognized their rudeness and excluded him from the other foreigners that they're talking about. But most of the time they kept right on, because why would they acknowledge how rude and naive their opinion was? But in Hallowe'en Party, there was an extra layer of just about everyone except the children having these complex opinions about criminal sentencing being influenced by extenuating circumstances. Several people complained about a psychiatric evaluation having to be done before the criminal can be sentenced. Some people thought they should just go back to hanging people. And one little girl even asked Poirot, do you think people are born to drown or born to hang? Mind you, the victim was drowned in a bucket used for bobbing for apples. In A Haunting in Venice, the previous victim had fell into a waterway and drowned. But you find out later they were really poisoned by honey. And at one point, someone tries to murder Poirot while he was bobbing for apples because they thought he was someone else. So besides the fact that there is a victim in each story that drowned to death, and the initial killing in the plot takes place on Halloween, there was a previous death not known to be a murder. There is a blackmail element in both stories. Both by children, one child lives and the other dies. Also, one child had figured out the previous murder on their own, and the other was just using information they had learned from someone else. But both blackmailers were known to be very smart and kind of creepy little boys.
Leopold, there's an actual literal party and you're hiding in a book. I thought you might play with other children for once.
Games are frivolous. The Halloween calls for horror stories.
Master Leopold, is it not? Oh, c'est très joli. That is a present, perhaps, huh?
Pocket money. I saved up. Supposed to expect me to be all sad and boo-hooing about the place, but I'm not. I know she was my sister and all that, but I didn't really like her.
Now, the atmosphere of the setting was important in both stories. There's the creepiness of the house in Venice.
Palazzo Lacrime di Giovani. In Venice we say, every house is haunted or cursed.
And the magical otherworldliness of the Poirot garden.
Oui, merci. C'est formidable.
And yet people very rarely visit here.
And why is that?
So what do you make of my little kingdom?
Oh, so this was the garden that you came here to execute? Mm-hmm. Oh, c'est vraiment superbe.
It was beautiful, but there was an underlying eeriness to it. Now, as a producer, figuring out the location of a sunken quarry garden would have given me a headache. But going from that to another country altogether seemed like a huge leap and kind of a step down. And why was there so many English people in Venice? In a house full of people in Venice, only one of them was Italian.
The family business was no longer for me. Perhaps never was. I had the strength, but not the skin. Eventually you get a case, and you know it's the last one you can stomach and still know your soul.
Also, in Halloween Party, Poirot was not there when the murder was committed. Ariadne Oliver came to get him the next day, and I think he went to Woodley Common the day after that. The fact that the story took place over a few days rather than overnight allowed the mystery to be more complicated. It was obvious in A Haunting in Venice that the daughter's death was probably a murder, and that led to the murder on Halloween night. Whereas in A Halloween Party, the first murder was a mystery in itself. The murder victim claimed to have seen a murder that she didn't realize was a murder at first.
I saw a murder once.
Don't be silly, Joyce.
I did.
Oh, really?
Of course you didn't see a murder. Don't say such foolish things, dear.
I'm not. I saw one.
We're going to play Snapdragon next. It's great fun.
It wasn't really till a long time afterwards, that I began to realise it was a murder I saw. Because I didn't know at the time that it was a murder. Of course, now I'm older, I know that it was a murder I saw.
So Poirot had to figure out what was the possible murder that she witnessed.
Deaths in the village.
Oui.
How far back?
Well, Mademoiselle Joyce said that the murder took place when she was quite young, so perhaps in the last 5 years or so.
But as far as I can see, there's only 3 possibles for this murder, what Joyce said she saw.
And they are?
Beatrice White.
To the Mademoiselle?
Monsieur Leslie Ferrier. And Mrs. Llewellyn Smythe.
Then there was the fact that everybody and their mama was telling Poirot that the victim Joyce was a little liar. So Poirot realized she was lying, but she was murdered for a reason. So what was the lie? In the end, the lie wasn't that a murder wasn't committed. It was that she was the person who saw it. I remember watching A Haunting in Venice in the theater and was thinking, how in the world was this inspired by Halloween Party? Outside of Ariadne Oliver, Poirot, and the initial murder taking place after A Halloween Party, nothing was the same. And let's talk about Tina Fey's Ariadne Oliver. On second watch, she wasn't as harsh as she came across to me in the first time I saw it. But she definitely didn't seem like a real friend of Poirot's.
We were friends.
You don't have friends. You have admirers, and you only have them because of me. I wrote you up as a genius. Why shouldn't I use you to sell books?
She was petty and scheming, and she used him.
You're a fool, an ego, a black cloud that lures death. And you know it too, that's why you quit.
That is not Ariadne Oliver. She is a woman who's always eating apples. She always seemed distracted and was always wary of other people's admiration of her fame. She was famous, but without the ego of Hercule Poirot. And in Halloween Party, Poirot even commented on her spot-on intuition. This, Ariadne, was part of the problem.
The authoress and the bodyguard working with the medium in the cahoot, feigning disdain, conspiring to bring me to this seance to make me a fool.
Ariadne is never part of the problem and never remotely even a suspect. And let's talk about Poirot as a character. I think we can all agree that David Suchet is the quintessential Hercule Poirot.
Michael Garfield.
Hercule Poirot?
Oh, well, there's a turn-up.
Wait.
Good to know you, monsieur.
Je vous en prie.
He embodies his qualities not only physically, but also his personality.
Ah oui? Hercule Poirot. He is the greatest detective in the world. And how do you call yourself?
I'm Miranda.
I have watched other Poirots, but none have ever come close to Suchet. Kenneth Branagh is okay, but he's way too active to be Poirot. In the books, Poirot makes a big deal out of not moving around so much and performing such activity. Instead, he likes to sit to himself and use his little gray cells. I have always felt his little expressions about activity were jabs at Sherlock Holmes, because he was someone who had great activity and went around looking for clues. Whereas Poirot was more psychological. He would ask a lot of impertinent questions, let people talk until they revealed something they were not supposed to. And he wasn't above eavesdropping. Kenneth Branagh's Poirot has a French accent, a big mustache, the ego of Poirot, but not really the methods. I said I was going to talk about A Haunting in Venice, but I have to mention Murder on the Orient Express one time. His Poirot exhibited the same type of activity that Poirot usually pokes fun at. He was doing too much. I don't know if he ever sat down once and just thought things through. I know that's not very cinematic, but somehow David Suchet makes it work. And when it comes down to it, the plot of Halloween Party was just plain better than A Haunting in Venice. By not keeping any of the plot, they lost an opportunity to adapt a really smart and intriguing story. A Haunting in Venice was simply a jealous mother killed her daughter, like why? And then killed other people to cover it up.
The murder of Alicia Drake, committed by her mother, her murderer. A mother who killed her own child, then killed twice more to hide her terrible sin.
Halloween Party had 2 killers, multiple deaths that happened before the start of the story. One death no one even knew had happened. They thought the girl had up and left. A forgery to a will to cover up the fact that the will was drastically changed and not forged. There were so many levels to the mystery in Halloween Party. And it also had a very unusual yet cinematic ending for Hercule Poirot. Usually he ends his mysteries by gathering up every person involved and going down the line and explaining each person's involvement or not in the murder. This time it was a race to save a little girl's life, and Poirot just unfolded the facts to Ariadne Oliver and the little girl's mother. The climax of the book felt very cinematic and was so much more satisfying than A Haunting in Venice. Agatha Christie does not get the credit she deserves for writing complex and well thought out mysteries. I have read every single Hercule Poirot story. My sister has read all of Agatha Christie's books, and every single plot was exciting, intriguing, captivating. And there was no cheating, no cheap tricks with the solutions. When Poirot lays out the whole mystery and solution, you realize everything you needed to know to solve the crime had been provided. Like, she needs to be studied when it comes to writing the perfect murder mystery. I think she started in the 20s and went well into the 60s. But I swear when it comes to her stories, there are no skips. Well, maybe the Tommy and Tuppence mysteries, but we're not going to hold that against her. So yeah, A Haunting in Venice joins the Duff and Hollywood adaptations that have absolutely nothing to do with what the book was about. I think Kenneth Branagh wanted to put Poirot in a kind of horror film, and he took the Halloween setting to connect it to a Poirot novel. Probably thinking that people wouldn't be inclined to go see a new made-up story about Poirot. Now, I have an idea for a fan fiction with Poirot, and it's a mashup with another popular property out there. If you want to read it, let me know so I'll write it. Did you like A Haunting in Venice? Did you wish Kenneth Branagh had just admitted it was an original story? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy my videos, please support my channel by subscribing, joining my membership, or donating through Ko-fi, Cash App, or Super Thanks. Or you can purchase merch related to my fantasy novel, or just buy my fantasy novel, The Fairy Princess. And let's continue the conversation in the Fairy Princess Facebook group. All links in the description.